There are many definitions of enlightenment, and, as far as the Buddhist spiritual term goes, yes, they all happen in the life of each one of us, sooner or later, if we choose to open to them and to do the work. There are various uses of the term enlightenment. The one most relevant to this question is the Buddhist one, so I will discuss that first. Then I will briefly describe two other uses, one part of European history, and one contemporary. Buddhist enlightenment. Enlightenment is a poor translation into English of a Pali and Sanskrit word from the Buddhist tradition, Buddhata. Buddhata means spiritually awake. To be awake is to live with one's eyes open, seeing things as they truly are. It is an inner choice to use one's inner capacity of vision. Enlightenment is a different metaphor, meaning that a light has come on. For example, if we are sitting in a chair and we can't see, we open our eyes, and we can see, that is awakening. If we are sitting in a chair with our eyes open and we can't see, we get up and stumble around looking for a light switch, a candle, a window shade. Finding a source of light outside ourselves would be enlightenment. The Buddha way is to embody the power of vision from within, thus awakening is a better term. In simplest terms, awakening, or enlightenment, has two aspects. A momentary event that may last seconds, hours, up to weeks. This is a moment of spiritual experience. The short, small ones are known in Japanese as kensho, and the longer, deeper ones as dai kensho, great kensho, or satori. It is a shift in fundamental perspective involving inner sight that sees without any bias of selfishness or self. It is often called an experience, but this is a mistake. To have a different experience, we go somewhere and seek something new, we journey. To awaken, we sit right where we are and open our eyes to what has always been here, but, without an open spiritual eye, we have never seen. In neuropsychological terms, an awakening event is the activation of unused portions of the neocortex and prefrontal cortex, guided by the neural heart, that organize and integrate personal and transpersonal experience of the entire neural system. A lasting way of living that arises after one or more dai kensho events are integrated into daily life, where one lives in constant contact with vast love and vast wisdom, living a life of harmless love, common sense, and truthfulness in relation to all. In any specific Buddhist path, additional stages and aspects of awakening are defined. But these 2 points are sufficient to describe awakening for this question. And yes, going back to the original question, both the enlightenment event, kensho or satori, and the living of an enlightened life, buddhata, do happen in the life of any individual. The capacity to awaken is inherent in each and all of us. The event can happen spontaneously, even in childhood. Full integration of the event calls for rigorous work to embody love in heart, mind, and body, and in all actions and relationships. Western Enlightenment. The term enlightenment was used for centuries in England and America before it became associated with Buddhism, but the European and American Enlightenment was a social movement, not an individual one. And its purpose, which one might consider spiritual, was expressed in very intellectual terms. The Enlightenment, or the Age of Reason, was a historical time period after the Renaissance and before the modern period. It began between 1601 and 1637, depending on one's definition, and lasted until the Napoleonic Wars of 1815. It was followed by a period of rapid social change and revolution powered by the Industrial Revolution. The Enlightenment is seen as a middle period in the development of the modern Western world that began with the Renaissance and is either continuing now, or collapsed over the course of the 20th century, leaving us with postmodern life and its chaos. The central question of the Western Enlightenment was, how do we take the best values of biblical wisdom, the wisdom of ancient Greek and Roman philosophy, and the Eastern gifts from India and the Islamic world of mathematics that includes algebra, and leave behind the need to rely on the biblical idea that the world and humanity are a creation of the Creator. Central to this, for example, is, if we are not taking a biblical basis, what makes the statement in the Declaration of Independence that, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty and the pursuit of happiness, an essential point placing human rights at the center of social and political wisdom, and do so without relying on a Creator? The Western Enlightenment was collective and rational in nature. If it had a spirituality, it was a spiritual faith that human beings, as rational animals, could use the developments of science and technology to create a just and peaceful society. Since we called World War I, the war to end all wars, World War II blew that idea out of the world entirely. The word enlightenment today. Today as the world becomes more globalized, but, I think perhaps a bit too superficial, and as every religious and spiritual group wants to present claims to wisdom and most to supporting the spiritual growth and happiness of the individual, the term enlightenment is applied in many spiritual, religious, and social contexts related to nearly all religious traditions. There is a vast variety of different uses of the term, so much that it doesn't have a single clearly definable meaning. Is it appropriate to use one term, enlightenment, to define the Hindu highest state of union with the Godhead, and the Buddhist highest state of Buddhata, even though the Buddha rejected all Brahmanic Hindu definitions of the spiritual path, and the highest spiritual state in the Christian mystical tradition, union with God? And then also include being in harmony with the Tao and being a fully developed shaman? Perhaps it is. But until we have a large body of individuals who have experienced all of these states through study in and across all these traditions, and who can tell us the similarities and differences, we really don't know whether enlightenment, as a general term, has any meaning or not. All postmodern spiritual uses of enlightenment tend to be couched in individual terms as something that an individual can embody or actualize or achieve. But is that true, or is that just a result of the individualist bias of the modern and early postmodern world and the English language? I encourage each of us, writers, readers, people, to awaken and to decide each for ourselves and then discuss the matter further. Enlightenment happens to nobody. Mind is left at doorstep before entering samadhi enlightenment. During samadhi, the objects of the experiences are not separate from experiencer. Experiencer is dissolved as his ego evaporates. In samadhi there is no space-time as there is no experiencer. But these intense experiences of the seeker who has come out of samadhi are inferred through recollections of the mind. Mind works like a camera capturing everything happening in samadhi from the door. There is a parable about Buddha. When Buddha attained samadhi, he didn't come out of it for 7 days. All the gods gathered at his feet and requested Buddha not to remain silent. They said, so many people for lifetimes wait for someone to become a Buddha and deliver the message after coming back from samadhi, to speak and tell what he has known. Please speak. But Buddha said, there is no one left here to speak, there is no desire left to speak. Moreover, what I have witnessed, it is hard for me to believe that it can be spoken, and where is the chance of listeners understanding it? When gods didn't agree, Buddha said, I will speak, but these things that I may say to somebody, I myself would not have understood had someone else told me before my own realization. So how would anybody else understand? Through my experience of samadhi I have come to one more conclusion, that those who will be able to understand what I have to say can also reach without me, and those who would not be able to understand what I have to say, there is no sense in racking one's brain in front of them,